The following programme contains graphic content which some listeners may find disturbing. Listener discretion advised.
I can breathe. Breathe into my dick. I can breathe.
Get up, get in the car.
Mama.
Get up and get in the car right.
I can't.
What people don't realise is when I was watching those videos, I was thinking that could be me just because of the colour of my skin.
There was talk of a post-racial America, and such a vision, however well intended, was never realistic. Race remains a potent and often divisive force in our society.
Black lives matter. Black lives matter. Black lives matter.
So I think with all the protests and stuff, for me, it was just really emotional, especially where it stemmed from with George Floyd. It was just really, really emotional. I think the protests in Dublin were absolutely amazing, but I just remember one of the days being like, there's no way I could go in. I know that I just would have spent the whole time crying, because obviously you couldn't forget what happened and why this is all going on, so that would have just made me really, really emotional. I think it's amazing in America though, because I really feel like this is where they need to stand, you know, that kind of way. And with Ireland supporting them and everyone supporting them, it's just really, really emotional to see. But at the same time, I feel like it's really, really good thing. I'm happy this is happening, like finally happening. I think as well, with the protests in Ireland, I really just couldn't believe how many people were coming out, how many people all over Ireland were coming out and protesting in their cities. I think it was amazing. Obviously, despite coronavirus and everything like that, people were still getting behind this, which was absolutely amazing to see. And seeing all the videos on Facebook with people talking on the megaphones and sharing their story, and then also seeing people around them getting emotional, it was just really, really amazing to watch. So yeah, with social media, I think that was probably one of the hardest things during the whole movement. I had to delete like Instagram and Twitter for like 2 or 3 nights because I just found myself literally glued to my phone watching all these videos and, you know, reading all these stories, and it was keeping me up all night and just crying, so emotional. So I think that was really, really what got to me the most, and that's what people need to think. So there's people all over Ireland and all over the world who are of colour, and when they watch these videos, you know, they're thinking, if I lived in this world, that actually could be me. That could be me on the ground. That could be me getting bed up. So that was really, really difficult. At the same time, though, I feel like the videos needed to come out, even though they were really, really graphic and it was really hard to watch. I feel like it made people finally realise that this does happen, and it's not going away unless something changes, you know, that kind of way. And it did really, really need to happen. But my friends were great, you know, even though everything was so tough for me, and my friends were great. They were always checking in on me, and my mom was getting texts as well because she is Irish and she's white, but she has 3 mixed kids and a black husband. So yeah, she was getting a lot of support as well, so that was obviously amazing to see.
If you're tired of arguing with strangers on the internet, try talking with one of them in real life. If you're disappointed by your elected officials, grab a clipboard, get some signatures, and run for office yourself. Show up. Dive in. Stay at it. Sometimes you'll win. Sometimes you'll lose.
When I put up my IGTV, I really felt like it was just something I needed to do. Like, I don't even know what came over me. I didn't even, like, obviously I was off social media for a few days and stuff like that, but I'd still watched a couple of IGTVs and stuff like that. And I just felt like I needed to put something up. I didn't feel obliged to. I just felt like I really just wanted to. It literally just took me 2 takes. I was literally just like, I need to get something out there. And I think the main reason, I mean, what it's all about is basically people understanding that just because of the colour of your skin, these things could happen to you, basically. You know, it was good though, because I felt like people needed to understand. You know, I was saying that, you know, over there, the people who have been affected by police brutality, who've been killed or harmed, they have friends and family, you know, and I did feel like it did hit people, because I did get a lot of messages being like, God, it's mad to think that I know you, I'm so close to you, and just because you're mixed race, you could be like those people over there who were being affected. So that really hit them, and that's kind of what I needed. I wanted people to understand that, you know, you have friends and family of colour. You need to think this is how they're feeling. They're thinking that that could be me. I absolutely feel like I could never live in America. I just feel like it's so corrupt, and with everything going on, would it be worth it for me? I just don't think so. I do feel like there's lovely people over there. I know there's lovely people over there, and I'd love to, you know, travel around and meet new people and make friends, but at the same time, you know, at this point, I would actually be scared. Definitely have thought about, you know, when I have kids and if they come to me saying, you know, they want to move to America, like, I wouldn't even know what to say. It would just really, really kill me. You know, I only said it the other day, like, you know, if my kid came to me and said, oh, I want to go on a J1 to America, I would just be so frightened, and then it would be emotional in itself, you know, especially if my child is of colour. I'll have to really educate them on basically how to be as safe as possible over there, and, you know, why I'm so worried and scared, and basically wouldn't want them to go, really, because you couldn't really say no, but at the same time, I'm living in fear that my child could go over there and be killed because of the colour of their skin, and that's the reality of it, and it's so emotional to think about. But this is why I'm so happy to be a part of the movement in this way, and, you know, putting on my IGTV, because there needs to be a change, so that hopefully my kid could go over there not in fear, you know.
When Trayvon Martin was first shot, I said that this could have been my son. Another way of saying that is Trayvon Martin could have been me 35 years ago.
I do feel, however, to really, really understand racism, like from its root, you really have to go back to the beginning, you know, go back to history and do the readings, watch the documentaries, anything you can to really get into your head that this is not right and it should never have started in the first place. But obviously, unfortunately, it did. And at the same time, you know, with Instagram and stuff like that, it's a good educational platform, but at the same time, you know, sharing a little post and, you know, are you really reading it? Are you really understanding it? You know, it's better off to just go back and I think really just look into it.
And I, for one, as a Muslim, believe that the white man is intelligent enough. If he were made to realize how black people really feel and how fed up we are without that old compromising sweet talk. Stop sweet talking it. Tell him how you feel. Tell him what kind of hell you've been catching, and let him know that if he's not ready to clean his house up, if he's not ready to clean his house up, he shouldn't have a house. It should catch on fire and burn down.
Yeah, I think my friends and family really did educate themselves. You know, they really did go online and read and watch videos from years ago, and I think that's really, really, that means a lot to me, because it means that they really want to get to the bottom of this and, you know, try and make a change as well. I think it was amazing as well to see famous influencers like actors and musicians and stuff on Instagram putting up videos sharing their stories with racism. And that's amazing because then people were commenting on it being like, thank you so much for sharing this. Now I really see that racism is everywhere and it happens all the time, big or small. And that was really important for people to understand. You know, like my friends were asking me like, oh, you know, what do you feel about racism in Ireland? And, you know, I was happy to explain, you know, and people asking questions, that's how people will understand, because people are happy to share their stories so that people really understand. I think one thing that did really annoy me during all this is influencers and Instagram. You know, some of them said, look, I'm not ready, I'm not educated. That's fair, go off, get educated, come back. But there were some really big influencers, you know, even ones of colour that said nothing. And that's kind of sad because there is, you know, young kids of colour who look up to them, who kind of needed that little bit of support. You know, I mean, they have such a big platform and their stories get looked at every single day that they could have even done swipe up links. They could have shared, you know, just some positive quotes during all this, but they didn't. Some people didn't, and that was really a little bit hard to see, because there is some that I look up to who I was hoping, you know, just share something, you know, share a petition, anything, show that you're supporting, but they didn't. So I'm sure they are supporting in their own way, but it was hard that they didn't use their platform for it. You know, and then you see the likes of things on like Twitter and stuff where people were saying, I just can't bear to watch these videos, and you know, those are the white privileged people who were just copying what everyone else was saying. You know, there was one tweet of I can't bear to watch this, and then 1,000 people commenting on it being like, I can't watch anything. And I feel like sometimes I'm like, those are the people who actually need to watch it to understand that, you know, they actually need to be sharing this, they actually need to help us get that out there. I do think I'm actually really lucky that I haven't encountered a lot of racism here in Ireland. You know, we used to live in Greystones. There was some racism towards my dad, so we left. We moved, live in Bray now. You know, and then when I was younger, you know, I was probably one of the first coloured people most kids had ever seen. So it was definitely different for them, and not everyone knew how to, you know, treat everyone equally, if you get me, because, you know, someone in play school had called me chocolate coloured, and obviously not in a bad way, but I went home and got in the bath and scrubbed my skin so hard, you know, and I said to my mom, I don't want to be chocolate anymore. You know, that's one of the first stories she's told me recently, which, you know, is devastating to think that I did that. You know, like I would die if that was my child, you know. But after that, you know, I was just a little brown girl in school, didn't really mind. You know, kids would say things like, oh, you're the colour of this crayon. It would be a brown crayon, and then they'd be like, oh, that's an ugly colour, or I actually don't like this colour. So things like that used to upset me a small bit, but I really usually just brushed it off. So I'm lucky that I had that kind of personality. You know, and then since growing up, it's really just been, you know, indirect racism, I guess. You know, people saying like, where are you from? And me being like, oh, I'm from Bray, and they're being like, oh no, because where are you really from though? Like, and stuff like that. And, you know, it's kind of a thing that people wouldn't say if I was white, you know, that kind of way. So, you know, I work in a nightclub, so I got a lot of that. And, you know, I kind of think like, why would you say that? Because like, I could be adopted, I could be, you know, not happy with where I'm really from, so I'm just telling you what I want to tell you, you know. And then just other things on nights out, you know, people would be assuming my name is like Keisha or something like that, or, you know, wanting to touch my hair. And I love when people compliment my hair, you know, my afro and stuff like that, but at the same time, it's like, you're only really asking to like touch my hair and be like, that's so cool. Like, it just makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable nearly. But yeah, you know, and I get things like that because I'm kind of like, right, everyone's drunk, it's a night out. People do be even asking me, why do you have a full face of freckles when you're black? And I'm like, well, actually, I'm mixed race, so my mom has those freckles, so do I. So it's just like things like that people, I wouldn't necessarily say that they're being racist, but, you know, they're only saying it to me because I'm black, or because I'm mixed race. So it is a bit, you know, annoying. And then, you know, my dad's obviously encountered a bit, you know, he's a taxi driver and people wouldn't get into his taxis because of the colour of his skin. So it's just things like that it's just like, I wish people would just, you know, treat everyone the same. And I am very grateful that I have been so lucky.
Who taught taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? So much so that you don't want to be around each other. No, before you come asking Mr. Muhammad, does he teach hate? You should ask yourself, who taught you to hate being what God gave you?
So with my CV and stuff, I was very much, always worried that what if they don't think I'll be able to speak English? What if they think that there's things that I can't do, that I'm from like a completely different place, that kind of thing. But, I was happy with the job I'm in now. I was happy I got a face-to-face interview and they could absolutely tell, like, I speak absolutely perfect English. I'm 100% from Bray and, that kind of thing. But so it's hard because then I think, when I leave my job now and say if I want to go and get a job in a bank or, something like that, will I be affected by my name? Because I just know that when they meet me face to face, they're going to think I'm a completely different person, that kind of way. It's crazy. Even my mom, because her second name is Adebisi, and she was even a slight bit worried, she was like, maybe for my CV I'll put O'Brien, but, obviously we were very lucky that we got the jobs we're in now, and, it's a worrying thing if we ever move jobs and that kind of thing, but I guess it is what it is. When we were living there, I was obviously born there, so was my sister. My mom and dad, was their first house, and I think there was just a lot of people making comments towards my dad, stuff like that. My mom told me a story that she was in the house with me and my little sister, and a group of lads literally just stormed in the door, tried to wreck the gaff. But yeah, it's just like, obviously they were just young, they were just thinking they were so cool, but they weren't, obviously. But yeah, so when we moved to Bray, everyone here is just lovely. We really haven't got any of that at all. It is, I guess you have to understand as well, because there is obviously places in Ireland that have really large black communities, and there's less racism there because there's black people all around, whereas when you live in a place where there's a really small black community, people don't see them that often, that maybe they're not, they don't work with them, they don't, they're not socializing with them, so they don't know that they're exactly the same as everybody else. Definitely have thought about, where will I settle down, because obviously I have to think, God, will I be like the only person of colour in that community? Will my kids be, that kind of way? So it is definitely a thought of mine. But then at the same time, I think about traveling, and I think about going to Australia for 2 years or 3 years and working and that kind of thing, and I don't think about racism. But then when I think about, obviously I have to come back and settle down, I do think, because I always think Bray, and I feel like I don't want to leave Bray because everyone is so lovely, everyone is so nice. I haven't encountered any serious racism at all. Like, everyone is so accepting of each other, everyone is so friendly. And yeah, so I think, when I think about settling down, I just can't imagine myself anywhere else but here, because I'm so comfortable with how great the people are. I don't know, I think when it came to boys, I was very, when I was younger, I was like the only girl of colour in my class, so I was kind of like, oh God, they're not going to go for me, and the girls were doing things to make themselves look better, especially when I got to secondary school, the girls were doing things like fake tan, big blonde hair, bleaching their hair blonde, colouring their hair all different colours every day. And I know I can now do my braids and stuff like that, but it was still just, I always felt like, God, they're going to be able to do crazy things to make themselves look great, and I'm just pretty much always going to look the same. But now I realise that actually they were making themselves look worse and I just looked normal. But yeah, I mean, after the years now, like after having a couple of boyfriends, I realised that it's really not about that at all, you know? Like, it really is about personality, and people like when you look a little bit different, you know? So I have a little brother and he can be a little messer, you know, and I think he came to me with the video and showed me that this was going on. I had no idea what was going on. He showed me the video of George Floyd and I was like, oh my God. And straight away I was putting myself in the shoes of basically being in America, and I kept thinking that could be my brother. That could be him, you know. And then I saw loads of videos coming out of parents and young men sharing their stories about how they had to be educated to basically survive, you know, survive going to the shop. It was like, you know, don't put your hood up, don't go too late, don't put your hands in your pockets. You know, it's so emotional to think that before your young boy leaves to go to the shop, he has to be told these things, you know. Whereas over here, it's kind of like you can do that stuff, you know. So I was thinking, God, imagine my mom had to tell those things to my little brother, you know, because that could be him on the ground. I think the best outcome that could come from this, you know, especially in America, but even here and all over the world, is just if people, you know, kind of just show a little bit more support to the Black community, you know, how they're feeling and how just like sometimes they are severely out of place, you know, that kind of way. Like, I have never felt out of place, like with my friends or stuff like that, but say if I'm starting a new job or I'm going to a new sport or something like that, more than likely I'm going to be the only coloured person there. And, you know, it's kind of like you have to think that person feels like the elephant in the room, because sometimes you do, you know, then you get to know everybody and everyone's so lovely and like they're not thinking, oh, she's standing out, but you're thinking it because that's how you feel. So yeah, if people could just be a little bit more supportive towards that, and really just, if you could put yourself in the shoes of the Black person in the room, I really feel like you'll understand racism and things like that a lot more. But yeah, just in America, I hope they really push and push and push to keep this movement going. I think it's just so important, because I hope they don't wait for, you know, another George Floyd for this movement to start again, you know, and just start again and again. I just hope that they just keep pushing and that the police operations can change, you know, small things like maybe they're not always armed all the time, you know, even the smallest thing like knocking on the door before entering to start shooting people, you know, that kind of way. It's just small things like that. If that stuff could change, that would be a huge outcome. It would mean more lives saved and, you know, more people understanding that there's nothing wrong with Black people. They are just normal people. So I hope that is the outcome.
There are very few African-American men in this country who haven't had the experience of being followed when they were shopping in a department store. That includes me. There are very few African-American men who haven't had the experience of walking across the street and hearing the locks click on the doors of cars. That happens to me, at least before I was a senator. Those sets of experiences inform how the African-American community interprets what happened one night in Florida. And it's inescapable for people to bring those experiences to bear.
Kind of I miss him. He played with me.
She didn't have to play with nobody else because Daddy was gonna play with her all day long. I mean, that was his baby. He loved his little girl. I watched it only for a moment because I was like, I couldn't believe that somebody was doing him like that. I wish I could have been there to help him. I hear them saying my daddy's name. And I told her, she doesn't know what happened. I told her that her dad died because he couldn't breathe. My heart is broke for my baby. It's broke.
That's right, Daddy changed the world. Wait, we don't. He did what?
That changed the world.
If you've been affected by any issues raised by this programme, free phone the Samaritans on 116 123.